Welcome to Play-by-Play Review. I'm your host, Henry, and it's a little bit late on today's episode, but I had, usually I record Tuesdays and then post Tuesdays, but yesterday I was instead streaming the World Baseball Classic Final, where the U.S. sadly lost to Venezuela, so I was a bit busy. Then I did a pretty insane FTL multiverse run that I'll talk a little bit about when I stream that game on this coming Friday on my YouTube channel. Henry the Host, all one word. You can go check that out. You can also find my podcast there, along with all the other spots, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, iHeartRadio, whatnot. I think there's a helicopter flying over my house at the moment. Not sure why. I heard another one earlier today when I was waking up, and it was very it almost caused me to miss my alarm because it was right when my alarm went off. But anyway, going on to the subject of today's episode, which is the NFC West Recap. I can actually talk about the 2026 free agents that each team, dealt with essentially. I'm not really going to go over the each specific news and detail of the things that I missed since last Wednesday. Going over the trade deadline then, because there's been a lot, and honestly at this point I'm just kind of want to get into the actual episode. There's been a lot of various smaller moves, I think. There's definitely been some big moves here and there. The big one that I will highlight at least is Jalen Waddle, the former, I want to say 6th overall pick in 2021 by Miami Dolphins at wide receiver out of Alabama, has been traded to the Denver Broncos for the 30th overall pick. So the first round pick and a third round pick. And I think that's it. And then the Broncos or the Dolphins also sent over a 5th round pick or something. Pretty big trade. I kind of like it for both teams. I think the Dolphins were kind of going into the season in 2026, not looking to do much. It sucks for Malik Willis because, he loses his number one wide receiver going into his new team. And Miami's wide receiver depth chart behind him is not great, to say the least. But I don't mind it for Miami because they accrue more picks. They have 2 first-round picks now. And they have the most dead cap space, I think, of any team right now with, I think they're paying $130 million in dead cap or something like that. It's some crazy number with Tua, with Tyreek, I think with Minkah Fitzpatrick as well. Just a lot of players that they have that they've parted with, essentially dealing with dead cap hits. And then I like it obviously for Denver because they really needed wide receiver help. So yeah, that was good on them there. Now to go over to the Arizona Cardinals, because that's what we're going to start with for the NFC West. So just going to go through the NFC West, starting here with the Cardinals. And so they were coming off of, what was their 2024 record? 8-9. I think Kyler Murray played that whole season. I want to say he did. But it was getting to the point under, the Jonathan Gannon, Kyler Murray led era for Arizona, where it was just wasn't going great, to say the least. They had the one good season in 2021, but that was with Cliff Kingsbury, not Jonathan Gannon. And after that, it's just been a lot of mediocrity. Obviously, Kyler has been injured a good bit here and there. I think he got injured in end of 2022 and missed a lot of 2023, if I remember correctly. Might be off by a year, but it just had not been going great. All things considered for the Cardinals leading up to 2024 or 2025, sorry. And so, going into 2025, they had a good bit of room to work with. They had a lot of cap space, and I believe only one first round pick. Might have been I thought it was 2 for some reason, but in terms of free agents, they did spend a good bit. The biggest one was bringing over Josh Sweat from Philadelphia, who, was just coming off of that Super Bowl victory for the Eagles. And he's reuniting with Jonathan Gannon because Gannon was the former defensive coordinator for the Eagles, I think back when they went to the Super Bowl back in 2023, if I remember correctly. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure he was the DC at that point. Or I guess that they would have gone in 2020. Well, calendar year 2023. Season wise, it was 2022. I was gonna say because I think I was off by one. But yeah, so Josh Sweat reunites with Jonathan Gannon. He signed a 4-year, $76.4 million contract. Really big. And actually, it turned out to be pretty good. Josh Sweat had a pretty nice season for Arizona in 2025. Their other big contract was to Dalvin Tomlinson on the defensive line, bringing him in on a 2-year, $29 million deal from Cleveland. They also signed Jacoby Brissett, bringing him in over from the Patriots to be a backup quarterback. That was their one of their 2-year deals, 2-year $12 million or $12.5 million actually. Then they also brought over linebacker Akeem Davis Gaither, who I swear was like just in the news like today for some reason. But they brought him in over for the Bengals. So there's a lot of work on the defensive side of the ball. They also brought back Calais Campbell, who was former draft pick of theirs back in 2007, I think. But it was, it's a good reunion. I think he was 39. He old guy and definitely a rotational guy on the defensive line, but he was overall pretty solid. For the role he played, I think he was pretty solid. They had some other ones, so they re-signed Kelvin Beachum, LJ Collier, Zay Jones, Will Hernandez, brought in Michael Walker, Simi Fehoko, Royce Newman, Jalen Jones, Jake Curran, Josiah Degura, J.J. Russell, and Pat O'Donnell. So a lot of depth pieces there. And so, there's good bit here and there, but I don't think there are too many people expecting a ton. It felt like from the Cardinals. They went into the draft with the 16th overall pick, wound up picking defensive tackle Walter Nolan out of Ole Miss, who is real big dude, and former Texas A&M Aggie as well. Then they picked Will Johnson, Michigan cornerback, in the second round, who I think a lot of people were saying was a draft steal because he was initially projected to go in the first round. He had a ton of talent, I remember that, but he dealt with a bunch of injuries, or I think a couple major ones at least, and that caused him to fall a bunch because he was, the injury concerns are real. And the Cardinals took a swing on Will Johnson, and overall, those two first picks, pretty solid guys there. I think both of them actually did deal with injuries, though. I know Walter Nolan did. He only played 6 games and then got injured for the rest of the season. There's a lot of injuries for the Cardinals in 2025. They went 2-1 in the preseason, winning their first and third, winning first against Kansas City, losing next against the Broncos, winning their third against Vegas. Then started out the season actually going 2-0. Started the season with a win against New Orleans, 20-13. And this was in New Orleans. And put up 14 points in the second quarter. And overall, it was solid. It was nothing too spectacular, but it was there anyway. Then they won their second in a row, going into playing host to Carolina, winning that one 27-22. Calais Campbell had a nice game-sealing sack on Bryce Young there, so it was Panthers had a chance, but it was Calais Campbell, the old guy, who came in and closed the deal there. So nice start actually for the Cardinals, and then the wheels just started to come off. They lost a close one to the 49ers in week 3, losing 16-15 on a last-second field goal. This is also the game where, unfortunately, James Conner suffered a season-ending ankle injury on a bad tackle. And it was he was trying to run up the gut or something, and then he got tackled, and he was kind of putting pressure on his leg or something, and then he basically got pulled down. It was not good. It was really not good. And Connor, who was he was off to a solid start through those first 2.5 games essentially, then went down. It was very unfortunate and kind of the start of the Cardinals' woes. Next game was playing host to the Seahawks, division rival Seahawks, and while they certainly gave them a fighting chance, they started to come back in the fourth quarter, scoring 14 points there. Seahawks would kick a last-second field goal to win 23-20. The Cardinals would fall to 2-2. Next week against the Tennessee Titans, who were winless at that point, it was pretty this is what really caused everything to just completely fall into chaos. They were up 21-3 against the Titans, who again were winless and were looking to be easily the worst team in football. And there was a point where it was looking like they were going to seal the game away with a big touchdown run from Amari DiMercado, kind of one of their rotational running backs. It would have been 72 yards, but he pulled a Deshaun Jackson and let go of the ball before he crossed the plane, resulting in a touchback. And then there was also the really weird interception to fumble to touchdown where Titans were in the red zone. Cam Ward threw an interception, but then that got immediately fumbled, and then the ball basically bounced into the end zone, and it was recovered in the end zone for a touchdown by the Titans. The Titans proceeded to put up 16 unanswered in the fourth quarter, leading to a 22-21 loss for the Cardinals. It was really, really bad, and that just kind of compounded everything. I think this is also the game where Kyler Murray got injured, if I remember correctly. It was either this game or the next game, but it might have been this game. And it would have one where it was a botched snap that happened where the ball basically hit Kyler Murray in the face mask, and then somehow he got an injured foot out of it as well, and then he was never seen again in the Cardinals uniform, as that was his last snap played. So Jacoby Brissett took the reins after that, and going up against a horse team, actually, very unintended little joke there. The Colts would beat the Cardinals in a shootout, 31-27 in Indianapolis. Then they would lose again to the Green Bay Packers, 27-23 at home against Arizona. So they would fall at that point to 2-5. They would actually get a win back after that. Well, they would have their bye in week 8 and then get a win back against Dallas on Monday night with a bit of an air show from Jacoby Brissett, surprisingly enough. The Dallas defense was having a rough time, and credit the Cardinals defense here. They were playing really well. Just kind of completely stymied the Cowboys for most of this game. So they would win 27-17 in Dallas on that Monday night game and improved to 3-5. Though at this point, I think they had lost Walter Nolan for the season. They had lost Sean Murphy-Bunting, Starling Thomas V before the season started. Trey Benson was out for after week 4. Kyler Murray was out after week 5. Marvin Harrison Jr. dealt with a bunch of injuries and just wasn't playing well. Max Melton missed 7 games. Will Johnson missed games. Blake Gillikin, their punter, was out for most of the season. It was so many injuries. Zay Jones was out for the season with a torn Achilles for most of it. You could just look at their injury report and it was long. And so after that Cowboys game, they would go into Seattle, get absolutely demolished 44-22. Then they would get demolished almost exactly the same score by the 49ers at home the next week, 41-22. So between basically just one field goal less there. They would then play the Jags in overtime at home, and they would lose 27-24. Then play the Buccaneers and lose 27-20. Then play the Rams, lose 45-17. Then the Texans losing 40-20. Then the Falcons losing 26-19. Then the Bengals losing 37-14. And then rounding out the season against the Rams, losing 30-27. So they would win their first 2 games, go on a 5-game losing streak, have their bye, win a game, and then go on 2, 4, 6, 8, 9-game losing streak to end the season, finishing with a record of 3-14. Not good at all. Jonathan Gannon was fired after the end of the year. Kyler Murray has also been released. So whole new regime coming in 2026. Trey McBride at least had a really good season. He was kind of insane. Had first team All-Pro, made the Pro Bowl as well. Budda Baker also made the Pro Bowl. But overall, not good in the slightest in terms of team stats. Their offense ranked 23rd in terms of points, and then 19th in yards allowed, or yards produced, I guess, actually. Their defense ranked 29th in points allowed and 27th in yards allowed. Not good. The defense just was not having it. For a defensive guy in Jonathan Gannon, his defenses were not good. Obviously, the injuries do not help at all. In terms of passing, Kyler Murray only played in 5 games. Jacoby Brissett played in 12. So Kyler Murray only had 962 passing yards, 6 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Brissett had 3,366 passing yards, 23 touchdowns, so 8 interceptions. So they're actually rolling with him again in 2026 from the looks of things. I believe they signed Gardner Minshew to be their backup quarterback. But I think Jacoby Brissett is the current starting quarterback for the Cardinals moving forward. I guess they're probably looking to 2027 to draft a quarterback. I doubt they go quarterback in 2026 in the draft. I just don't see it. In terms of rushing, just due to the massive amount of injuries, Michael Carter led the team, starting only 5 games at running back, played in 13, had 333 rushing yards, 1 touchdown. Then it was Amari DiMercato, played in 13 games, didn't start a single one, had 312 rushing yards, no touchdowns. All right, and so next one was actually Zonovan Knight, was the third leading rusher for the Cardinals at 269 rushing yards and 4 touchdowns, led the team in rushing touchdowns. Kyler Murray was 4th in terms of yards at 173 and 1 touchdown. Jacoby Brissett was 5th at 168 and 1 touchdown. And so after the 2 quarterbacks, it was Trey Benson, who only played in 4 games because he got injured. Rushed for 160 yards during those. Was looking to be that guy to replace James Conner, who he got injured, and then Benson got injured, unfortunately. So it's real unfortunate there for the Cardinals. Then we actually do get to James Conner, who was 7th. Just played in those 3 games, didn't even finish the 3rd one. Had 95 yards on the ground and 1 rushing touchdown. Then there was Corey Kiner and Greg Dortch. Kiner, a running back, had 58 yards in 4 games. And then Dortch was a wide receiver, had 7 rushing attempts for 15 yards. So probably some reverses, jet sweeps, whatever you want to call it there. As for receiving yards, Trey McBride led the team with 1,239 and 11 touchdowns. So you can see why he was having a really good year. Michael Wilson was actually second on the team with 1,006 yards. So leading the team, or leading the wide receiver room, I should say. Also had 7 touchdowns. Marvin Harrison Jr., who only played in 12 games, had 608 yards and 4 touchdowns. So definitely looking to see more of him in year number 3. Then after that, it was Elijah Higgins with 301. Michael Carter with 267. Greg Dortch had 206 and actually 3 touchdowns. Then Zay Jones, who only played in 8 games, had 183. Zonovan Knight had 160. Amari DiMercato had 101. Then a bunch of guys in the double digits. Overall, it's really outside of Trey McBride and even Michael Wilson a little bit, not the best time for Cardinals receivers. Then for the defensive side of the ball, the leading combined tackler for Arizona was Budda Baker, who had 120 combined tackles. Keem Davis-Gaither, who had was second on the team with 117. Then Jalen Thompson, safety, was third at 95. In terms of sack leaders, it was Josh Sweat, who led the team with 12. Then Calais Campbell had 6.5. Then after that, it was Baron Browning, linebacker who they traded for from Denver back in 2024, had 2. Walter Nolan, who only played in the 6 games, had 2. Zaven Collins, former first-round pick back in, I think, 2021, had 1.5. Jalen Thompson, Darius Robinson, Dalvin Tomlinson, Jordan Birch, BJ Ojulari all had 1 sack, and then Budda Baker and Cody Simon both had half a sack. Then in terms of pass coverage, in terms of interceptions at least, Denzel Burke led the team with 3. Dadrian Taylor Demerson, I think is how you pronounce it. Taylor Demerson, I think that might be it. Anyway, he had 2. Baron Browning, Budda Baker, Keem Davis-Gaither, Mac Wilson, and Garrett Williams all had 1. And then finally, in terms of forced fumbles, because I think that's the last stat I've been doing, Josh Sweat had 4. And then a bunch of guys had 1. So Keem Davis-Gaither, Mac Wilson, Garrett Williams, Jalen Thompson, Cody Simon, Will Johnson, Keitrell Clark, Zachary Carter, and how do I pronounce this name? Hijalte Froholt, I think is how it goes. Had 4 fumbles actually. Froholt's an offensive lineman, so maybe he was doing it after a defensive like interception or something. Anyways, yeah, so really outside of Josh Sweat, the defense in terms of the stat sheet at least, again, this is just stat sheet, not the greatest overall, but I mean, obviously the whole 29th ranked defense is certainly part of it as well. But yeah, there's no surprise whatsoever that the Cardinals are just kind of flushing out a lot of the old, bringing in new. They still have Monty Osenfort as their general manager. He's been there since 2023. But they've got a new coaching staff, bringing in Mike LaFleur over from the Los Angeles Rams, division rival Rams, who was their offensive coordinator from 2023 to 2025, was the Jets offensive coordinator from the 2 years before that, then worked in San Francisco for 3 years, then Atlanta back in 2015, 2016. So well-traveled guy, gets his first shot as a head coach. It'll be their first season without Kyler Murray. Cardinals sitting at the 3rd overall pick, as well as the 34th overall pick. So some pretty good draft position there. I think I've seen a lot of people mock offensive tackle. I think it's Francis Mauigoa, I think is who it is. Let me actually see if I can pull up. Just do 2026 mock draft. Just go with Daniel Jeremiah. Just for the first one I see. Francis Mauigoa. That's who it is. I was off by a little bit, but offensive tackle out of Miami. That's, I think, who is, largely considered to be the top tackle or like top offensive lineman for the Cardinals. And while I believe they have, Paris Johnson, I think is who it is. Let's see. Yeah, Paris Johnson, who is also a first round pick in 2023 at 6th overall. You know, having a guy on the other side of him, because he's their left tackle, slot him in at right tackle. You know, get that position, both sides sorted out for a while, essentially, and just get it over with. Don't overthink it. I don't mind that pick at all. I mean, maybe they go defense as well. Certainly, I could certainly see it as well. I don't think they go Jeremiah Love because while they certainly could use a running back, I just think they have more pressing needs at the moment. But we'll see. Actually, speaking of that, because I'm going to go to their 2026 free agents, because I can do that now. In terms of the free agents they've signed so far, the biggest contract given out was to Isaac Seumalo from Pittsburgh Steelers. I almost said Pirates for some reason. Offensive guard from Pittsburgh on a 3-year, $31.5 million deal. I'm also going to be restating a little bit from last week's episode, but this is team specific here. Then another big one was to Tyler Algier, so Falcons running back on a 2-year, $12.25 million deal. So that is probably deters them from going Jeremiah Love at pick 3, and definitely I could certainly see them going Mauigoa at pick 3. Shore up the offensive tackle position. Brought in Roy Lopez and Kendrick Bourne on 2-year deals at around $10 million each, DL and wide receiver, respectively. And then Elijah Wilkerson as well at guard. So shoring up a lot of the interior offensive line. Don't know who their center is at the moment. Let me see if I can find that real quick. John Gaines II is currently listed as their center, 2023 4th round pick. I don't think they're going center in like 1st or 2nd round, but it's something there. Other than that, it's like some re-signings, a lot of depth position as well. So Cardinals are definitely not going to be a great team, I think, in 2026. Just because that quarterback position is, your quarterback room of Jacoby Brissett and Gardner Minshew. It's not great. Like maybe they go quarterback in the later rounds, just try and get like some young guy in there because Minshew's only on a 1-year deal. I think Brissett's on like a 2-year deal at the moment, so this is his last year. But I wouldn't be surprised if they're picking, top 5 again in 2027 and going with the quarterback there. But I feel like they've gotten a decent number of holes filled out. I'm still a bit worried about the defense. Who is actually their defensive coordinator now? Because I don't remember off the top of my head. Their defense coordinator is Nick Rellis, who was formerly with the Eagles. Was actually their defensive coordinator under Jonathan Gannon, so he's actually sticking around. And I guess now he's being promoted to play calling duties, I would assume. Whereas Nathaniel Hackett's actually being brought in as the offensive coordinator. Not really sure if I like that move. They actually have Matt Schaub, former Texans quarterback, as their quarterback's coach. So that's interesting there. And then, Mike LaFleur is the head coach. So overall, I don't know if there's a ton of hope for the Cardinals in 2026, but I'm very curious to see who they go with at 3. Again, I think Maui Goa is probably the safe bet there. I just wouldn't expect too much for them going into next year, and probably look for them more in 2027 than 2026. So next up says the I think it's the Los Angeles Chargers. I'm trying to do it alphabetical order because Chargers, Seahawks, and 49ers. So yeah, it should be the Los Angeles Rams. I think I said Chargers before, but I meant the Rams, the other Los Angeles team. So yeah, the Rams are up next. Now I got to switch around my tabs here to go from the Cardinals to the Rams. Shouldn't take too long here. So the Rams are coming off of the divisional round matchup in the snow, loss to the Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles. Probably played them, actually not probably, they did play them the closest of any team when it came to the playoffs, compared to the Packers, the Commanders, and then the Chiefs otherwise. They gave the Eagles the biggest run for their money. So, there was a lot to look forward to for the Rams. The offseason was a little weird with Matthew Stafford because there's people were worried because he had some kind of back issue all throughout training camp. So didn't play. And people were wondering if he's going to walk again or something. And then there's that weird, metal trailer thing that looked like something from the 50s and Fallout, a retro futuristic trailer thing that had some weird, I don't even know. It was strange, but Stafford was, he was good. To say the least. We'll get into Stafford in a sec, but the short answer is he was good, really good. But in terms of free agency in 2025, the big signing was bringing over Davante Adams from the Jets on a 2-year, $44 million deal, and this certainly worked out for them here. It was a really good signing. They also brought in Poona Ford over from their other LA team, the Chargers, on a 3-year, $27.6 million deal. They signed Coleman Shelton, an interior offensive lineman from the Bears, on a 2-year, $12 million deal. And then a lot of smaller ones. So DJ Humphries at tackle, Dave Quessenberry also at tackle, Michaela Witherspoon, Troy Reeder, and Laryl Murchison re-signs. Nathan Landman brought over at linebacker from the Falcons, and then Ronnie Rivers was re-signed as well. Braden Covey at wide receiver, who I don't know if he really did anything. And then Trey Brown at cornerback. So bunch of smaller moves along with a couple big shots for and Davante Adams and Poona Ford. And yeah, Davante Adams was really nice. Really, really nice. They did lose Cooper Kupp. That was a big one in free agency to the division rival Seahawks. Also lost to Marcus Robinson as well at wide receiver. So, trying to refill that wide receiver spot with Davante Adams. And going into the draft, they did have a first round pick going in. They actually traded out of the first round to the Falcons, who traded up to select James Pierce Jr. So they actually, they were going to have 2 first round picks going in 2026. We'll get to that in a little bit. They selected Terrence Ferguson in the second round with a pick from the Falcons, actually. Tight end out of Oregon, who I don't think played too much. Their other picks, because they did a lot of wheeling and dealing. Actually had at 1.4 picks in the 6th round and traded all of them at some point. So they had Josiah Stewart, outside linebacker from Michigan in the 3rd round. Jarquez Hunter, running back out of Auburn in the 4th round. Ty Hamilton and Chris Paul Jr., nose tackle out of Ohio State, and inside linebacker out of Ole Miss in the 5th. And then Konata Mumfield, wide receiver out of Pittsburgh, in the 7th. So that was their 2025 draft. And otherwise, bit of coaching turnover here and there. They brought back, I think, Brandon Staley, if I remember correctly. Or no, I feel like he was there. I could have sworn they brought him back, but maybe not. Anyway, like Sean McVay was still there. Mike LaFleur was the offense coordinator at this point. They lost Nick Caley to be the offense coordinator to the Houston Texans. And otherwise, it was definitely going in with a lot of optimism. The secondary was a little interesting. They had Manuel Forbes and Cam Curl still manning there. Cam Curl actually had a really nice season. Forbes not as much. But yeah, it was like eventually when we got around to it, Stafford was going to lead there. Kyron Williams was going to be running back one. Devontae Adams was Devontae Adams and Puka Nacua actually were going to be the top two there. So there is good a lot of optimism for the Rams going in. Tight end position, maybe not as much. I think Tyler Higbee was rehabbing an injury, so didn't see too much there. But otherwise, there was is going in. Rams are going to be pretty good. I think everyone expected that. They went 2-1. Yeah, I almost said 2-3. I don't know why. But 3 games in the preseason, 2-1 in that. Won their first and 2 against the Cowboys and Chargers. Then lost against the Browns. Then going into the regular season, they started out with a win against the Texans at home, 14-9. Not exactly the flashiest of games, but it was good defensive performance from the Rams. They scored 2 touchdowns, didn't give up a touchdown at all to the Texans. Then the next week at the Titans, they flexed their might, winning 33-19. Just a good performance all around. And like the Stafford to Devontae Adams connection was really starting to light up. Like Puka Nacua had a good game in week 1, but you could tell early on that Stafford was having a really good, going to have a really good season, and B, Devontae Adams was a really good signing. Week 3 against the Eagles was frustrating for them because they were doing well. They were leading for 26-7, and into the third quarter actually, and then they just kind of shut down, and the Eagles started to come back, and this is where special teams really started to hurt them. As actually wound up lining up for what would have been, I think, a game-winning field goal, and 44 yards. So not exactly a short one. This might have actually been a game-tying field goal. I don't remember exactly, but if I can do math in my head, it would have been. Actually, no, I think it would have been game-winning. But instead, it was blocked and returned by either Jalen Carter or Jordan Davis, one of the two, but I think it was Jalen Carter, who blocked it or basically got the ball and ran it back for a touchdown. So that's why the score was 33-26. But it was one of many special teams mishaps that the Rams had in the season. They would bounce back the next week against the then undefeated Colts, winning a close one, 27-20. I think it was first time Jonathan Taylor really got stuffed in the game, or stuffed for the Colts at that point. Stafford had another really good fourth quarter touchdown to win the game. Classic Rams right there, classic Matthew Stafford. They would then go up against the division rival 49ers at home and lose in a very close one, losing against Mac Jones 26-23 in overtime. And it was when Mac Jones was having a good stretch there. To say the least. This was on Thursday Night Football. I think this is the one where the day of or the night before, they were Mac Jones was staying in the hotel and he woke up and found a dead body in his apartment or something. It was or in his room. It was really weird. I just remember that being a story, and I'm pretty sure it was this game. And yeah, still close divisional matchup loss there. They would bounce back the next week going up against the Ravens in a really low-scoring effort. They would win 17-3 against the Ravens. The Rams defense was having a game this time around, and Derrick Henry was stuffed a lot. Lamar Jackson couldn't really do much. It was kind of an odd game because I think people were expecting this to be a bit of a offensive shootout, and it just did not turn out to be that way at all. They continued their winning efforts. There we go. Against the Jaguars in week 7, completely demolishing them 35-7, just destroyed completely just wrecked the Jaguars. Then they would basically do the same exact thing to the Saints in week 9, beating them 34-10, so only giving up 3 more points compared to the Jags game beforehand. That Jags game was in London, in Wembley Stadium. Then they had the bye in week 8, and then week 9 was against Saints. They then avenged their Thursday Night Football loss against the 49ers, beating them 42-26 in week 10 in San Francisco. Then actually defeating the Seattle Seahawks the next week at week 11 at home, 21-19. Really nice game there. The Seahawks-Rams matchups were really nice this time around in this season. It was really, really nice. Week 12 against the Buccaneers was, going up against a pretty injury-riddled Buccaneers team at that point. The Rams just completely trounced them 34-7. They were looking really good at this point. They were 9-2. So it was, things were looking real good for the Rams at this point. And while I wouldn't say the wheels fell off, there was definitely things took a bit of a turn a little bit. As week 13 against the Panthers, Matthew Stafford was cementing himself as the MVP frontrunner at this point. It had been 7 or 8 games since he'd thrown an interception. It was actually, there it is, 28 consecutive touchdown passes without an interception. Stafford was having an insane game. So, of course, in this game, he throws 3 interceptions. He had only thrown 2 at that point on the season and had not a great game against the Panthers. They would actually lose in a shocking fashion to the Panthers, 31-28. And really surprising there. They bounced back the next week, though, against the Cardinals, 45-17. And just the offense for the Rams was having a day and really having a season as well. Their offense was doing really well. Their defense is also pretty good. But the offense was this was the Stafford show this time around. Week 15 against the Lions, who at this point were struggling a good bit, would net a close win for the Rams, 41-34. After that, it was week 16 against the Seattle Seahawks, and this is the rematch. And it's really kind of deciding who was going to be leading the NFC West. In the end, it actually went to overtime. Both teams scored a touchdown, and this is one where the really weird 2-point conversion that went in favor of the in favor of the Seahawks, where it was it was a fumble, but then it wasn't a fumble, and then it was really weird overall. Seahawks wound up winning 38-37 in overtime. Really nice game overall. But this is one where Sam Darnold finally kind of conquered his demons against the Rams, because he had struggled a lot against the Rams throughout a lot of his career, and especially in the past couple seasons, given the playoff loss against the Rams in 2024 with the Vikings, where he just got demolished by their defense. Darnold finally overcame the Rams and led them to a victory and kind of cemented the Seahawks to be the number 1 seed and the winners of the NFC West. So the Rams are kind of looking to be a wild card team instead. So week 17 was against the Falcons, and the Rams actually lost this game 27-24. But at this point, they were pretty locked in the playoffs, and still not exactly good, but wasn't, end of the world or anything like that. Then week 18 was against the Cardinals, where they win 37-20, cementing themselves with a 12-5 record, if I read that correctly. 12-5 record. Stafford had a season for the ages, and they were on to the playoffs. So their wild card round was actually a rematch of the Panthers game, and it was actually, the score was the same. It was the results that were flipped. Stafford led another late touchdown drive to seal it. Really nice work there from Stafford. I think it was Stafford to Devontae Adams. Might have been Puka, but I'm pretty sure it was Devontae Adams. They would beat the Panthers in the wild card round 34-31 in Carolina. Then they would go up against the Bears, who were coming off of that awesome win against the Packers in overtime. Actually, no, I don't think that one wasn't overtime. That was just the comeback win in the wild card round. This game would actually go to overtime. And this is the one that had the bad interception that Caleb Williams threw, with DJ Moore not really showing a lot of effort on the route, the whole thing there. And that led to a game-winning field goal. Then it was the NFC Championship game. Seahawks were playing host because the Seahawks were kind of dominating. And it was a really good game, really close game for the most of it. The one big mistake that they had was the Rams muffed a punt that set up the Seahawks with a nice touchdown there. And in the end, the Rams would fall to the Seahawks 31-27 in the NFC Championship game, ending their season right there. In the end, though, there's a lot of accolades to be given out for this team. Even if they couldn't quite make it, is pretty similar to last season where Seahawks, who, spoiler alert, would go on to win the Super Bowl. The Rams played them the best out of really any team. So it's twice in a row they've lost to the eventual Super Bowl winner and played them the best. So pretty unfortunate there, but they are very close. And you could certainly see them making the Super Bowl as we move or in 2026. So Puka Nacua and Matthew Stafford made first team All-Pro in 2025. Both of them also made the Pro Bowl. And then Jared Verse and Byron Young also made the Pro Bowl on the defensive side. Matthew Stafford also would win NFL MVP after putting up just a gem of a season. It was really, really nice. So in terms of overall stats, this team was the number one offense in terms of points and yards. The defense was 10th in points and 17th in yards, so it was lagging behind a little bit. I thought that would have been a bit better, but not quite as good as I think they would hope. I think their pass rush wasn't nearly as good, and their secondary also wasn't as good, I think, as expected. It wasn't bad by any stretch, but it wasn't great. Special teams was also like one of the worst in football, so it wasn't great there. In terms of passing, Stafford started all 17 games and threw for I believe a league-leading 4,707 passing yards, 46 touchdowns to 8 interceptions. So yeah, that was pretty good. No surprise there that Mr. Stafford won MVP because that was crazy performance. In terms of rushing, it was Kyron Williams leading the way with 1,252 yards and 10 touchdowns. Blake Corum actually had a pretty good season, 746 with 6 touchdowns. So he's a really nice compliment there. Then after that was actually Puka Nacua with 105 touchdowns, or not 105 touchdowns, 105 yards and 1 touchdown. Then Ronnie Rivers with 46 yards. Jordan Whittington with 12 yards. He's a wide receiver, actually. Then Stafford had a solid net 1 yard rushing on 29 attempts. I think there's probably a couple of kneel downs in there that really took his, brought down that total. But I do love how he's 29 attempts for a grand total of 1 net rushing yard. In terms of receivings, can't talk sometimes. In terms of receiving yards, Puka Nacua led the team with 1,715 yards. Devontae Adams actually only had 79. I actually thought he had a lot more. He just had 14 touchdowns. Nacua had 10. So, real good season there from Puka Nacua. And, the Devontae Adams connection was really like, he scored so many touchdowns, like inside the 5-yard line. He was like kind of doing what you see a lot of tight ends do. Just like doing big body catches to, just throw him the ball in the red zone and he's going to catch it. And that's basically what Devontae Adams did a lot. It was almost impossible to stop. It was really impressive. And then obviously Puka Nacua is like one of the best receivers in football at the moment. Outside of that, Colby Parkinson, tight end, was third on the team in reception yards with 408, had 8 touchdown catches as well. Xavier Smith after that had 303, no touchdowns. Kyron Williams had 281 with 3 touchdowns. Tyler Higbee had the exact same stat line, 281, 3 touchdowns. Terrence Ferguson, 231 with 3. Davis Allen, 208 with 3. So that's 3 tight ends in a row with 9 combined touchdown passes. Then you throw in Colby Parkinson, also the tight end. So that is 17 touchdown passes to tight ends. None of them over 500 yards. Interesting little stat line there. Tutu Atwell had 192 and a touchdown. He's actually no longer on the team. He left in free agency. And Jordan Whittington had 171, no touchdowns, so on and so forth. Mumfield actually Konata Mumfield had a touchdown catch as well. On the defensive side of the ball, as I will try and speed this up here real quick, sack numbers, Byron Young led the team with 12. Jared Verse had 7.5. Kobe Turner, 7. Braden Fisk had 3. Josiah Stewart also had 3. Nathan Landman, 2.5. Cam Curl, Poona Ford, Jalen McCullough, Dejuan Johnson, and Laurel Murchison all had 2. Then Quentin Lake and Tyler Davis had 1. In terms of tackles, combined tackles, at least Nathan Landman led the team with 132. Cam Curl had 121. Omar Spites had 85 as third. Then on the defensive side of the ball, Manuel Forbes and Kobe Durant had 3 interceptions each. Cam Curl, Cameron Kitchens had 2. And then Nathan Landman, Quinn Lake, Kobe Turner, Darius Williams, Josh Wallace, and Akel Witherspoon all had 1. And then wrong stat. Forced fumbles, Nathan Landman with 4, Jared Verse 3. Then Forbes, Quinn Lake, Cam Curl, Josiah Stewart, Byron Young all had 1. So in terms of 2026 looking forward, the Rams didn't do too much in terms of signing free agents. They signed Jalen Watson at cornerback on a 3-year, $51 million deal. So that was big. The other only ones listed, at least on Spot Track, are Grant Stewart at linebacker on a 2-year, $5 million deal. And then Joe Cardona, long snapper, bringing him over from the Dolphins on a 2-year, $3.5 million deal there. However, the big news for the offseason was that the Rams traded for cornerback Trent McDuffie from the Kansas City Chiefs, sending over the 29th overall pick, which was their pick, not the Falcons' pick. So they still keep the 13th overall pick from the Falcons. But yeah, they sent over first and a 5th and a 6th, and I think like a second-round pick the year after. Yeah, big move there. They also gave McDuffie a massive extension, making him the highest-paid cornerback in the league. So really shoring up that secondary after, kind of getting torched a little bit by Sam Darnold in multiple games, actually, towards the end of the season. To replace the departing Michael LaFleur, they brought in Nathan Scheelhaas, actually promoted him. So he's now the offensive coordinator. Chris Shula is still the defensive coordinator for the Rams. I believe they brought in a new special teams coach as well. Don't see him on Ray Ventrone. That's who it is. Former linebacker, actually, I believe, or former. What position did he play? Safety, actually, not linebacker. Safety, who played for a number of teams. Former undrafted free agent for the Patriots. Played for them a little bit. Played for the Browns a little bit as well, and the 49ers. Former Super Bowl champion as a coach with the Patriots as a assistant special teams coordinator, was there when they won Super Bowl 51 against the Falcons. So we'll see how it goes there for the Rams. But yeah, outside of the big moves at cornerback, not too much for the Rams at the moment, but they do have that 13th overall pick. Not sure who they're going to go with there, but certainly plenty of options. So after that, we'll go to the 49ers. Let me switch over the tabs again. And 49ers, as with a lot of their seasons over the past, really in the Kyle Shanahan era, a lot of injuries, unfortunately. A lot of injuries. They're still pretty good overall. It's surprising how well they wound up, especially record-wise. It's pretty impressive how well they did. But overall, it was definitely a season that kind of got away from them. That is not the season I wanted. That is the season I wanted. So in terms of free agents, the Niners signed a lot of depth pieces, not too many big ones. Their biggest contract they gave out was to tight end Luke Farrell, 3 years, $15.75 million. They also brought over Mac Jones as well, both from the Jaguars. Mac Jones on a 2-year, $8.5 million deal. They also brought over Demarcus Robinson from the Rams. Re-signed Kyle Juszczyk, brought over Saran Neal from the Dolphins. Jason Pinnock from the Giants. Fabian Moreau from the Vikings, former Washington Redskins pick, which is kind of nice. Eli Apple over from the Chargers, though I actually don't know if they Don't know if they played him at all, but he was there. And yeah, there are a lot of depth pieces, essentially, not too many big ones, given that they have a lot of big contracts, and they had just paid Brock Purdy a ton of money, so they didn't have a ton of money to throw out. They also lost a lot of guys on defense and offense, actually, but a lot of defensive guys in free agency. So they lost Aaron Banks at guard, but Charvarius Ward, Javon Hargrave, Talanoa Hufanga, Dre Greenlaw, Leonard Floyd, Blake Collins, a lot of guys essentially. But like the Hufanga and Greenlaw ones were big. Same with the Javon Hargrave one, but I think probably Talanoa Hufanga was like probably the biggest guy they missed because he was good for them and he was good for Denver when he played with them as well. So they also traded away Deebo Samuel to the Commanders. And so there's a lot of new work, or a lot of new looks for the 49ers going into 2025. And I swear every time I go to like these different Wikipedia things, they're like just different formats every time. It's really annoying. Like this one is the Rams one was just not, and like the Rams and the Cardinals were just not really in depth, especially the Cardinals one is not in depth at all. And then the Niners one is like insanely in depth. It's crazy. So for the 49ers at the 11th overall pick, they selected defensive end Michael Williams out of Georgia. Then they went with Alfred Collins, defensive tackle out of Texas in round 2. Upton Stout at cornerback in round 3. Other than that, a bunch of other guys as well. But I just remember Upton Stout being like a guy that actually showed up a lot during the season. Kyle Shanahan was still the head coach. Clay Kubiak was the offensive coordinator, and Robert Saleh was the defensive coordinator. So in the preseason, they went 2-1, lost the first one against Denver, then won the next two against the Raiders and Chargers. Then week 1 was against the Seahawks, where they actually win the game 17-13. And in Seattle, they actually go on a bit of a winning streak to start the season, winning the next one against the Saints 26-21. In New Orleans, then returning home against the Cardinals, winning that one 16-15. Covered that one already. And then at some point, I'm trying to remember exactly when, but Brock Purdy would go down with an injury. It was actually in the season opener. That's what it was. And then Purdy went down with a toe injury and held him out for a good chunk of the season, actually. And so Mac Jones took over and was playing well, all things considered. And I'm pretty sure, where is Nick Bosa? Because he went down with an injury at some point. I believe that is not where it is. Where is Nick Bosa? Is he listed under linebackers? No, he's not. Where is Nick Bosa on this? He was probably listed under injured reserve. Duh, because he got injured. That would do it. But I feel like he tore his ACL in this again. It was in the Cardinals game, actually, in week 3 that he tore his ACL. So I knew I was right somewhere around there, unfortunately. And that would be one of many. Fred Warner went down with an injury that kept him out for most of the season. It was in week 6, actually. It was where it happened. He went down with a season-ending injury there. I believe Michael Williams dealt with a lot of injuries over the course of the season as well. But yeah, the Nick Bosa and Fred Warner injuries were bad. Yeah, Michael Williams as well. Just a lot of injuries. Obviously, the Brock Purdy one included. Basically, it was like everyone on both sides of the ball. Like Ricky Pearsall dealt with injuries. Pretty sure Demarcus Robinson also dealt with some injuries. Everyone except for Christian McCaffrey was dealing with an injury. They'd also traded for Brian Robinson Jr. before the season started from the Commanders as a kind of rotational back to complement McCaffrey, though he didn't play too much. And so after that week 3 win against Cardinals, they would lose the next one against Jacksonville, 26-21. They would bounce back with that overtime win against the Rams, then lose to the Buccaneers when they were, really hot, 30-19. Then they would bounce back again, so they kind of flip-flop, winning against the Falcons 20-10. Then they would lose to the Texans 26-15. Then they would win against the Giants 34-24. Then they would lose to the Rams 26-42. I believe at this point, Brock Purdy was about back. It was around this time, I think. Basically, everyone was getting injured, and then McCaffrey was having an insane season. So after that, just going back and forth pendulum swing, they actually go on a major run where they would win. Well, they would beat the Cardinals 41-24. Then they would beat the Panthers week 12, 20-9. Then beat the Browns, definitely going up against a bit of an easier schedule here, 26-8. Then they would have their week 14 bye. Then they would beat the Titans 37-24. Then the Colts 48-27. Then the Bears 42-38 on that really fun offensive shootout on, I think, Sunday night. Then they would lose their season finale against the Seahawks 13-3 in a game that kind of decided a lot as well. But overall, still, despite the massive amount of injuries they had, they still finished with a 12-5 record and made the playoffs. In the playoffs, though they were kind of limping in, they wound up beating the Eagles, actually, in Philadelphia in a nice little game right there. George Kittle, however, would go down with an injury that kept him out of the next game. And then going into Seattle, they just got demolished completely. Like, it was like no Kittle. McCaffrey was really the only offensive guy able to work. Their defense was just shredded. They got destroyed completely. Like, Rashid Shaheed returned the opening kickoff for a touchdown, and the 49ers couldn't even match that. They lost 41-6. So it was just another unfortunate, like, don't know how many more seasons you can take of this, of just the same, like, just everyone getting injured and falling short again and again. It's very unfortunate there. So despite the successful overall season, record-wise, it just felt like they left a lot to be desired. So the team had the 10th overall offense in terms of points and 7th in terms of yards. Their defense was 13th in points and 20th in yards. And again, I'm trying to speed this up a little bit so we can get it done. Then in terms of individual accolades, let's see. Very, very similar. Mac Jones played in 11 games, started in 8. Purdy played in 9, started 9. Purdy was actually just barely edged out. Mac Jones had 2,167 yards, 20 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. Mac Jones had 2,151 yards, so just 16 yards short of Brock Purdy, though he had 13 touchdowns to 6 interceptions, so not quite as good of a ratio there. McCaffrey also had 1 attempted pass, though he did not complete it. And then also in terms of individual accolades, so Kyle Juszczyk, Christian McCaffrey both made first-team All-Pro. Trent Williams made second-team All-Pro. All three of them made Pro Bowls, as well as George Kittle, long snapper John Weeks, and special teamer Luke Gifford. They all made Pro Bowls as well. So in terms of rushing yards, McCaffrey obviously led the team. He had, 1,202. It's not like a super, insane number, but still good number there. Had 10 rushing touchdowns. Brian Robinson was second on the team with 400 on the dot and 2 touchdowns. Then Brock Purdy was third on the team with 147 and 3 touchdowns. Mac Jones was fourth on the team with 60, and then Sky Moore was fifth with 11, and Demarcus Robinson was sixth on the team with 6. So running backs was really just McCaffrey and B-Rob. Literally no other running back is listed in terms of actually running the ball. So it was really just the show between those two. In terms of passing yards, McCaffrey also led the team with 924. Juwan Jennings had 643 with 9 touchdowns. McCaffrey had 7 receiving touchdowns. George Kittle was third on the team with 628 and 7 touchdowns. He dealt with injuries. He got injured, I think, in the first game, actually. Now that I'm remembering it, and was out for 5 or 6 games, and then obviously got injured in the playoffs. Ricky Pearsall, who only played in 9 games, had 528, no touchdowns. Jake Tunges, who was the kind of backup tight end, had 293 and 5 touchdowns, actually. He had one really nice game filling in for George Kittle, where he had I feel like he had 80 yards and 2 touchdowns, and then I picked him up in fantasy because I had George Kittle in fantasy, and then he had 0 points in the next week, and I was very upset. Kyle Juszczyk also had 213 yards and 2 touchdowns, so there's that. But this year is the Christian McCaffrey show for the 49ers, and yeah. Other than that, not too much on offense. So in terms of sack leaders, Bryce Huff and Cleveland Ferrell led the team with 4, so not a lot of defensive production there. Obviously losing Michael Williams and Nick Bosa for most of the year did not help. I believe Bryce Huff is also retired at this point. They might have cut him, either that, one of the two. But I don't think he's on the team anymore. Sam Okuwanyu, had defensive lineman had 3 sacks. Nick Bosa had 2 in the 3 games he played. Keon White had 1.5, and then Michael Williams, Tatum Benthew, Upton Stout, Alfred Collins, and CJ West all had 1. And then Kalia Davis had a half sack. The leading combined tackler was D. Winters, linebacker, at 101. Then Tatum Benthew at 94 and Upton Stout at 82. In terms of interceptions, it was Jair Brown and Diamador Lenore with 2, and then D. Winters, Malik Mustafa at 1. So not too many turnovers there for the 49ers. In terms of forced fumbles, it was Fred Warner with 2 in the 6 games he played. Bryce Huff, Nick Bosa, and Alfred Collins also had 2. So Nick Bosa with 2 forced fumbles in 3 games, pretty nice. And then Jair Brown, Upton Stout, Sam Okuwanyu, that Nick Martin and Isaac Garendo all had 1 forced fumble. So looking to 2026, the 49ers made a big splash in free agency, bringing over Mike Evans on a 3-year, $42.4 million deal. They lost Kendrick Bourne to free agency. They're most likely going to see the departure of Juwan Jennings and Brandon Ayuk. Ayuk, who was, I think, healthy for a lot, like at this point for 2025, did not play a single game for them. And it's been very weird there. But yeah, definitely needed some more help at the wide receiver position. And Mike Evans, while he is certainly injury prone and going to a very injury prone team, I don't mind the signing at all because, it's he's really good. In terms of, other free agents, they brought over Vidarian Love at offensive tackle from the Patriots. They brought back Dre Greenlaw, who got released by the Broncos. A little surprising there. So they brought him back. They also re-signed Luke Gifford at linebacker. They brought over Christian Kirk from the Texans at wide receiver. Brought over Nate Hobbs at corner, that could actually be a pretty sneaky signing right there. The Nate Hobbs signing. Look out for that. Then brought over guard Brett Toth from the Philadelphia Eagles. Other than that, not too much there. Don't believe they made any trades. They did lose Robert Saleh to Tennessee, as Saleh is the new head coach for Tennessee Titans. So they replaced him with former Falcons head coach Raheem Morris. Morris and Kyle Shanahan worked together in Washington back in the early to mid 2010s. They brought over Matt Eberflus as assistant head coach / assistant defensive coordinator, replacing Gus Bradley. So there's that. Don't really know why they brought over Eberflus because he's terrible. But yeah. Let's see. Who do they lose in free agency? I already covered that actually. Then looking forward to the draft. They currently hold the 27th overall pick as well as the 58th overall pick in the second round. They do not have their third overall pick. Traded that to the Dallas Cowboys in exchange for Osa Odigizua. So actually that's a trade they made. So I don't mind that trade actually. And then they have a bunch of comp picks in the 4th round and then don't have any picks in the 5th, 6th, or 7th round. So I'm not, I don't mind the situation the 49ers are in. They just need to stay healthy. And I feel like that's hard to, keep harping on, but they have the tools, they have the set, they have everything. They just cannot keep it together. And if they can keep it together, they don't need to keep everyone healthy, but if they can keep at least a lot of the top guys healthy, they can be good. It's going to be tough with the Rams and the Seahawks in their division, but I'm not going to count out the 49ers at all yet because they still have a lot of good pieces there. It's just unfortunate that it's like every other year they just keep getting nailed with injuries. It's ridiculous. All right. We will conclude with the Seattle Seahawks. And honestly, I could literally just say that they won the Super Bowl and that's their summary. So it's they did it, but I'll do a little bit of, do a little recap. But yeah, Seahawks are your Super Bowl champions for 2025. Wasn't like perfect of a season, but it was really good. This was, for most of the season, it felt like the best team, one of, if not the best team in football. And especially when it got to the playoffs, they were dominant in the playoffs on both sides of the ball. This was a very complete team. It was really, really impressive. So to start out with free agency, the Seahawks' big signing was Sam Darnold, bringing him in over from the Vikings on a 3-year, $100.5 million deal to replace the departed Geno Smith, who they released, I believe. I don't think they traded him. I think they just cut him, and he went to the Raiders. The Raiders might have traded for him. I don't remember exactly. Let's see. Was he relinquished? No, he was not. So I think he was traded, actually. I don't remember the fact of that. Anyway, they also obviously brought over Cooper Kupp. Another big signing was bring over DeMarcus Lawrence from the Cowboys at edge on a 3-year, $32.5 million deal. Brought over Josh Jones at tackle, MVS at wide receiver. Brought back Shaquille Griffin at cornerback. Then a lot of like smaller deals as well. But yeah, it was the three big ones of Sam Darnold, Cooper Kupp, and DeMarcus Lawrence. Those were instrumental in getting them to where they were. In the draft, they drafted. They had the 18th overall pick and drafted Gray Zabel out of North Dakota State at offensive guard, who was really good for them. And then also they picked in the second round Nick Emanwari, safety out of South Carolina, who's really good, and Elijah Arroyo at tight end, who was solid as well. They also picked Jalen Miller at quarterback out of Alabama in round 3, which is interesting. In terms of later rounds, they drafted Torrey Horton, Colorado State wide receiver, in the 5th round. So pretty good draft, all things considered, for the Seahawks. They had a lot of really nice a lot of really good drafts for them. They had also traded away DK Metcalf to the Steelers and used that pick to eventually select Elijah Arroyo. I think they traded up a little bit. They traded up to get Nick Emanwari, actually. That's what it was. That's just that was a different trade. Never mind. But yeah, it was a pretty good draft there. Last couple of drafts where the Seahawks were real nice, just to say the least. Like, getting Devin Witherspoon and JSN, who was pretty much poised to become the lone wide receiver 1 now for the Seahawks. So they went 1-1-1 in the preseason. They tied the Raiders, then beat the Chiefs and lost to the Packers. Then week 1 was that loss to the 49ers, 13-17. Then they would bounce back, just demolishing the Steelers 31-17 in Pittsburgh. Would demolish the Saints 44-13 at home. Win the narrow one against the Cardinals in Arizona. Then they actually lose in a shootout in that throwback uniform matchup against the Buccaneers 38-35, going to 3-2. They would win against Jacksonville in a low-scoring one, 20-12. Then they would win against the Texans 27-19, have their bye in week 8, demolish the hard luck Commanders in week 9, 38-14. Demolish the Cardinals at home 44-22. Then they would lose against the Rams in that 21-19 game, and then they just never lost after that. They beat the Titans in actually a pretty close one, 30-24. Shut out the Vikings 26-0. Demolished the Falcons 37-9, not 19, just 9. Won a narrow one against the Colts, the Philip Rivers-led Colts, actually, 18-16 in Philip Rivers' first game back after like 4 years. They won the overtime shootout against the Rams on Thursday night, 38-37. Beat the Panthers 27-10. Beat the 49ers 13-3, finishing the regular season 14-3. Just having a really good season overall. Then the playoffs, they would skip the first round because they had their number 1 overall seed. Demolish the 49ers 41-6. Win the narrow one against the Rams 30-27. Then in the Super Bowl, demolished the Patriots 29-13 to win their second ever Super Bowl as a franchise, avenging the Super Bowl 49 loss from 15 years ago at this point. The most successful season they could have right there. They had 5 All-Pros, JSN was first team All-Pro. Jackson Smith and Jigba had wide receiver. And then Michael Dixon, the punter, middle linebacker Ernest Jones, defensive tackle Leonard Williams, and cornerback Devin Witherspoon all were second team All-Pros. And then Sam Darnold, DeMarcus Lawrence, Rashid Shaheed, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Leonard Williams, and Devin Witherspoon all made the Pro Bowl. They traded for receiver and punt returner Rashid Shaheed at the trade deadline, and that transaction was really good for them. Shaheed has been exactly the kind of weapon they needed in the special teams and just like a deep threat in general. So in terms of statistics, they had the third overall offense in terms of points and eighth overall offense in terms of yards. And then the first ranked defense in terms of points and sixth ranked defense in terms of yards there. So really good on both sides of the ball. In terms of passing yards, Sam Darnold had 4,048 passing yards, 25 touchdowns to 14 interceptions. Really started to limit those interceptions later on. I don't think he turned the ball over once in the postseason, and that was huge. It was really nice, down the line clutch performance there by Sam Darnold. And then in terms of rushing yards, Kenneth Walker III led the team with 1,027, had 5 rushing touchdowns. Zach Charbonnet was second with 730 yards and 12 touchdowns, was more of the goal line type of guy. Other than that, a lot of double-digit rushers here and there. Leading the team receiving was Jackson Smith and Jigba, who led the league in receiving at that, with 1,793 en route to an Offensive Player of the Year award win. Also had 10 touchdowns on top of that. Cooper Kupp was second on the team with 593 yards and 2 touchdowns. A.J. Barner, tight end, had 519 yards and 6 touchdowns. Then after that, it was Kenneth Walker with 282, Rashid Shaheed with 188, Elijah Arroyo with 179, Torrey Horton 161, Zach Charbonnet 144, so on and so forth. In terms of the defense, Byron Murphy and Leonard Williams both led the team. Also Uchenna Nwosu as well. Each had 7 sacks, tied for the lead. DeMarcus Lawrence had 6 sacks, just below them. Then Drake Thomas had 3.5. Nick Emanwari, Jaron Reed had 2.5. Tyrese Knight had 2. Boye Mafe also had 2. Derek Hall had 2. Then Ty Okada had 1.5. Julian Love, Patrick O'Connell had 1. And then Josh Jobe, Ernest Jones, Devin Witherspoon, and DeAnthony Bell all had a half sack. Ernest Jones led the team in combined tackles with 126. Drake Thomas had 96. Nick Emanwari had 81. Ernest Jones also had 5 interceptions at a linebacker, which is really impressive. Kobe Bryant at free safety had 4 interceptions. Darian Kendrick had 2. Then Drake Thomas, Nick Emanwari, Devin Witherspoon, Ty Okada, Josh Jobe, Reek Woolen, and Julian Love all had 1 interception. Then in terms of forced fumbles, DeMarcus Lawrence had 3. Tyrese Knight had 2. Then Kobe Bryant, Boye Mafe, Brandon Pili, actually. And then Sam Darnold all had 1 forced fumble. So moving on to wrap this up with the 2026 free agency stuff going on at the moment. The big ones were that Seahawks focused on re-signing a lot of players. So they re-signed Rashid Shaheed to a 3-year, $51 million deal. That was really big. They also re-signed Josh Jobe on a 3-year, $24 million deal, as well as re-signing Brady Russell on a 2-year deal, Josh Jones on a 1-year deal, Brandon Pili on a 1-year deal. Then they brought in Rodney Thomas at safety from the Colts. Then re-signed Shamar Jean Charles and Chaz Surratt. And then they also just recently brought in Noah Igbenogany. They actually lost a good number of players in free agency, like big ones. The biggest one actually is Kenneth Walker. Lost him to the Chiefs on a 3-year deal. They also lost Boye Mafe to the Bengals on a 3-year deal worth $60 million actually. Kenneth Walker got a 3-year, $43.5 million deal, or $43.05 million deal actually. Then they lost Kobe Bryant on a 3-year deal, $3 or $40 million deal to the Bears. Reek Woolen to the Eagles on a 1-year deal at $12 million, and then Derek Young on a 1-year, $1.8 million deal there. But yeah, the Reek Woolen one, I don't think they're too torn up about because he was pretty streaky there. The Boye Mafe one is going to be interesting, but the Kenneth Walker one is definitely curious to see how they go about replacing Kenneth Walker there. They have also lost offensive coordinator Clint Kubiak and a lot of his staff to the Las Vegas Raiders. So they have replaced Clint Kubiak with Brian Fleury, who was most recently the run game coordinator and tight ends coach for the 49ers. Longtime assistant coach for them, worked with them since 2019. So it should be interesting there. Obviously, they're keeping around Mike McDonald. In terms of the draft, they obviously have the 32nd and 64th overall picks. Basically all the late ones. So 32nd, 64th, 96th are theirs. Then their 4th and 5th ones went to the Saints in that Rashid Shaheed deal. They have 6th round pick from the Browns, and then their own 6th round pick and their 7th round pick are no longer there as well. So they only have 4 picks right now at the moment in the 2026 draft. But we'll see what happens there for the Seattle Seahawks. Obviously sitting pretty comfortably as I got completely distracted by noise that threw me off. But sitting comfortably as the divisional, but also Super Bowl champs of 2025/2026. So yeah, congratulations once again to Seattle. So that will do it for this here episode. I will try my best to get an episode out Saturday. I kind of got sidetracked with other stuff and kind of forgot to record an episode on Saturday, this past Saturday. So I'll try and get one out there. Next week will be the AFC East recap. After that, I think as I'm going forward, as we get into the start of baseball season, next Thursday is opening day. Since I'm going to be doing weekly recaps of the baseball season, as I did with football, I'm going to basically try and do like 2 double dipping in sports to wrap up the divisional recaps just to get them over, because I still have 4 left to go. And then after that, it's basically just going to be going comfortably into baseball. Also, I'll do one for the draft when, like, first night of the draft at least, when that gets over with. Also probably stream draft night for night 1 at least. And yeah, otherwise I'll be continuing to stream stuff on my YouTube channel. I'll be doing this week at least. I'll be doing continuing to play through Metroid. Again, I almost say Metroid Prime, but Super Metroid. Keep going through that. Also do an FTL Multiverse stream on this coming Friday. And then otherwise going to be doing streaming every Friday once baseball season really gets underway. An Orioles game, I'm going to try and do that. And then I'm also streaming opening day for the Orioles next Thursday. So yeah, just expect a lot. I have a Pearl Harbor video in the works right now, trying to get footage for that. But the editing is underway there. I have a very big sports related video that has been in the works, just kind of haven't gotten around to actually finishing up the edit, or getting started actually on the editing. I haven't really done much, but that is a video that is hopefully going to come out sooner rather than later. Don't know how long it's going to take, but yeah, it's a long one essentially. But that'll do it for this episode. Thank you very much for listening.